You might be faced with data like I have here, starting with row 11, where we've got transactions in here showing like the order date and the company and the product that they purchased, who the rep was, and how much was transacted. And you might want to know how much we have in total transactions. You might want to know how many transactions we had. You might want to know the average amount that we transacted if we took all these numbers and figure out the average. You might want to know what the highest number was in there. You might want to know what the lowest number was, right? You could do that initially using just standard function formulas, and you'll see many of these as we go through the different videos. But what we're looking at here is a situation where we will see all those totals, but then what you can do is type in a criteria on this row that will then focus on only those numbers that fit the criteria that you've got typed in here. So for instance, if you were to type in, let's say, the rep named Rose, you put that there, you'd end up getting only those numbers that were involved with Rose, or that Rose was involved with, as far as your totals, or how many of them there were, you know, how many transactions have Rose on them, and so forth. So in order to make this happen, we'll be using a series of database functions to make all this happen. So here's what we'll do. We're going to start out with the first one. This is going to be called the DSUM, all right? And the way we set this up is we go over here to where we'd like to have that be. And I would imagine, you know, doing the sum or doing the total would be a good place to put this one. We start out with equal. We type in the letter D and probably the letter S, and you'll see DSUM, and we'll double click that. All right, now the first thing it wants to know is, where is your database? Well, the database is this whole thing here. So we're going to click on to A11, and just because we got, it's not a huge thing, but it's pretty large. We're going to go ahead and hold down the Shift key and the Control key, hit the right arrow key to go across, and then the down arrow key to go down to the bottom. So we have quite a few transactions here, over 70, almost 75,000. So I'm going to kind of elevate her back to the top here so we can see the rest of our formula. Okay, now you put a comma in there. The next thing it wants to know is, which field is it that you're going to be doing your totaling on, or your counting on, or your averages and so forth. And that's going to be the fifth field. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's this field right here. So we put the number 5 in there, just like that. And then another comma, all right? And then we have to reference the criteria range, all right? Now the criteria is basically this area right here. So if we wanted to find and add up only those, you know, sales by rows, or only those sales of, you know, Sir Rodney's scones or whatever it is, we would put that information in here, and then it would automatically then give us our calculations up here. So in that case, we select this range here, just like that. So it's important when you set, if you want to do something like this, it's important to set up your area that you want to, you know, calculate at. You're going to have this criteria area, which is going to match in order and in spelling what you have for your headings here, right? So it's not that hard to do, but it's very specific. Now, because I don't want to have to do this formula over and over and over again, all right, what I'm going to do is set this up with some absolute settings so that I can copy it down and then just go back to each of the formulas and change it from DSUM to DCOUNT to DAVERAGE to DMAX and DMIN. Those are the ones we're going to be using here, okay? So what we're going to do then, I'm going to get this little help guy out of the way here. Move that down a little bit like that. So what I'm going to first of all do is I'm going to select this range right here, because when I go to copy the formula down, I don't want that shifting down on me, right? So I select that area, and do you remember what we hit? Hit that F4 key, right? So you hit that, just like that. And then I don't want this range to change or shift either. So I'm going to take this one right here, right? And we're going to hit F4 on that one. All right. Now, go ahead and hit the Enter key. There's your first one, right? And that one is accurate. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to copy this all the way down like that. You're going to get the same thing, obviously. But now in this one, I'm going to change it from DSUM. So I'm just going to do a double click, make this DCOUNT. All right. And then enter it, right? And then double click this one. And this is going to be DA, and there's your D average, right? Double click that one, enter, right? And then for this one here, we're going to double click the DSUM and make this DA, and that's going to be, DM for max, right? So there's DMAX, enter, and then for this last one, double click that one, type in D, and this is going to be DM, and we're going to get DMIN, right? And double click that one, enter. There we go. So now, without any kind of criteria in here, we can very confidently say that of all the data that we've got in here, we've got a little over $1 billion, almost $1.5 billion in sales, 75,000 actions, I should say, the average of almost $20,000 per transaction, the highest transaction, a little over 30,000, and the lowest just under 10. That's what we're getting. Now, let's run this. So let's say we want to see only those sales made by Peacock. So I go over here, type in Peacock, and it doesn't matter if you do this in uppercase or lowercase. Enter that in, it changes. So Peacock is responsible for a little over $130 million in sales, and also the rest of this information. I can go back and delete that, and it goes back. If I were to type in, you can see this one item on here called Geit Toast, whatever that is. We'll type in GEITOST, enter that in, and there are actually a little over 1,000 transactions of that. Pretty wild. And if you wanted to see those products being sold, let's say by Kingsley, I just happen to see Kingsley there, so I know there's going to be at least one, right? So if I type in Kingsley, I can't even type here, Kingsley, okay, enter that in, brings it down. So there's 137 rows in here that are Kingsley selling Geit Toast. I mean, that's pretty powerful stuff. And again, if we go back in here and select that and delete it, then it goes back to square one. How about if we wanted to see all of the sales transactions that were less than 20,000 or less? I can go down over here. I can type in less than or equal to 20,000, just like that. Enter it in. There they are. Go back in there and delete that. And then let's say I wanted to see, let's say all sales after, let's say January 1st, 2019. I can do a greater than or equal to, and I would just type in the date of 1/1/2019, and there we go. Look at that. So pretty good stuff there. There are alternatives to this. There are, some that are better, some that are worse than this, all right, that you'll experience by the time you watch all of my training videos. So by the time you get done with, from Module 1 to Module 10, you're going to run across, especially with the database tools, other tools that kind of do this as well, but in a different way. But, you know, you're left with a situation where it's like, well, I've seen the 5 ways you can do this. I prefer this one, or I prefer that one. See, so it's really just a matter of preference, if anything. So hopefully you liked what you saw here. Hopefully maybe you can start using this with some of your own data. But then again, I appreciate you watching the video, and watch more of them.